Okay. Sì. Sei enorme, Paola.
Sì, vi vedo un po' incombente. Mi sento... Non avevo capito che quegli schermi lì erano lavagne, pensavo fossero 2 monitor. Sì, sì, abbastanza inquietante.
Ok. Se ti presenti e dici che sei cambiato, poi utilerai la valutazione. Okay.
Hi, I'm Gerardo Carpentieri from University of Naples. There is a little change on the program. I'm the new discussant of the session. We have four presentations. Mm-hmm. The first one is by Simone Chiorindi, mm-hmm. Giulia De Sogus, Chiara Garau, Paolo Nisi, and Paola Zamperlin.
Okay.
Okay.
Giulia De Sogus. Yeah.
Okay.
Paola, can you see?
Yes, yeah, I see you.
Okay. I'm Giulia De Sogus. I'm a research fellow at the University of Cagliari, and the title of the paper I'm presenting today is a preliminary survey on the Smart Specialization platform, evaluation of European best practice, right, with Simone Chiordi, Chiara Garau, Paolo Nesi, and Paola Zamperlin. The presentation will be divided into a little introduction, and the yeah.
Share your presentation on screen. How is that?
It's okay. The explanation of the rule of the European Union in open data platform and the European best practice. And we will talk about the methodological approach and application to the case study: Amsterdam Smart City, Helsinki Smart Region, Copenhagen, Florence Smart City. At the end, I present the result and the discussion and conclusion. The research goal is investigate the relationship between smart urbanism development and the use of open data platform, understand how these are useful for defining action and strategy for the facilitated the planning of the smart city, and understand if it is possible to find platform common characteristics that allow cooperation of intention between European Union city. Thanks to the systematic and cross-reading of some European platform good practice in Smart City Solution project, it will possible to highlight the scope of the Smart City and sustainable and financing, open data exploitation, and technical characteristics. The history of the European Union legislation in smart solution and artificial intelligence is long, being in 2014 with the Functional European Facility, and in 2021, there is a European interoperability framework of smart city and communities and the Artificially Intelligent Act. The network of smart city in Europe is getting bigger and bigger. In this paper, we will talk about the city that, thanks to the creation of the platform and thanks to the artificial intelligence, have made a process to become intelligent faster and easier and more systematic. These are Amsterdam, Helsinki, Copenhagen, and Florence Smart City. Amsterdam Smart City is a public and private initiative and involving 32 territorial projects focused on energy, transition, and energy, transition, and connectivity. And the most important thing is that the rule of the governance, which when combined with the high model efficiency, environmental performance, and quality of life, has the potential to promote public engagement. And is more important the website of as a connector and as a information. The platform sector are circular city, energy, mobility, citizen and living, digital city, and smart city academy that provide knowledge on the smart city project and help with the project development. Helsinki Smart Region is a regional strategy of smart specialization that promote the participation of the different actors in the European Union international network and the cooperation project. The purpose is to improve regional innovation potential and to foster international collaboration by sustainable growth. It's very important that this project is not limited to the capital Helsinki, but is extended in different municipalities. And the sector, the innovative ecosystem, is citizen city, climate neutrality, and industrial modernization. Copenhagen Smart City is one of the 20 cities included in Nordic Smart City Network as a collaboration initiative joined 5 countries with the aim to explore the Nordic way to create a smart, sustainable, and livable city. Copenhagen Smart City is firmly anchored in the 3 main objective goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2025, creating a greener, more sustainable, and more living capital city, and supporting economical growth. Florence Smart City. Florence Smart City with San Sebastian and Bristol, it is one of the 3 leader city in the European project replicable. Key factor are strong collaboration of the stakeholder actors, the value chain, public administration, technology expert, and etc., etc. The city must be considered a complex system of process stringly interconnected. Building up a smart city, replicable time, research clear vision, and strong leadership. And in this project, Snap for City is a project being completely open source, modular, and scalable, This solution has had an advantage for growing with the need of the city by adding component. The time, it's okay? Okay. The results are the vital connection between open data platform and smart urban development made through artificial intelligence. This platform can be connected with the reality of the city. Using different data, the platform manages to interpret the need of the city in other fields. And by combining these by combining them, they create a dynamic interoperability capable of giving the city network a really connection. Through this analysis, we focus on smart city and sustainable financing, open data exploration, and technical characteristics. The Smart City project, for the first result, the Smart City project have demonstrated a positive impact of improving and environmental condition and livability of city and the economical return of citizen and public administration. And the second, it's really that is huge among of the data coming from a different domain. The risk of to create separate data silos that do not allow to correctly evaluation project. But recently, cities are becoming more ways of multiple direction data channel and are abandoning an approach based on simply connection data resource. And the third is that most of the smart city AP service are focused on single city area and expose a limited number of service. This means that in most cases, passing from one city area to other, the user have to get other application to get the same service. And for conclusion, the city that use open platform to accelerate their intelligent growth, this approach aims to encourage urban living by integrating more sustainable solution and addressing smart city-specific challenges. And for a controlled and dynamic management, the smart city planning it's more connected. And there are different characteristics that the platform can implement to allow cooperation of interaction between different European cities.
Thank you.
Paola, if you...
Are any questions in the room or from remote connection?
I have no question because I am one of the authors, so I know to research this research, so I prefer other people ask some questions in case.
Okay, we have some difficulty to hear you. Okay, don't worry. I have a question.
Yeah.
You propose some example of case studies of smart city planning at regional and city level. In this preliminary analysis, do you define some positive or negative point in regional or in the comparison between regional and city strategy? Do you think that probably the regional scale is more adapted or no?
Okay, in this paper we compared the platform, only the platform, and yes, it's clear that the difference between the smart region, smart urban, and smart city is not big.
Okay. Do you have any other question? Okay. Move to the second presentation.
Paola.
By Michela Lanzeroni and Paola Zamperini. I suppose that Paola Zamperini.
Yes, I am the presenter. Okay. Okay. I try to share my screen.
Yeah.
And just a moment, please, because I have two screens, so that's probably.
Okay.
It's you see me?
Okay.
My screen. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank all the organizers for this complex session and complex conference. I know all the problem probably you are encountered every day to solve this double virtual and in person. So thank you, Giulia, thank you, Chiara, and all of you. And the research I'm presenting today is a study part of a broader research, and the title is Industry 4.0 Technologies and Italian Urban System Between Smart Development and Increasing Inequalities. The first question I want to pose is what is the impact of the fourth industrial revolution? We know that the relevance of changes that have taken place in production systems and spaces, in the way the job market is organized, in the qualification of human resources as consequences of the diffusion of the advanced technologies such as robotics, 3D technologies, artificial intelligence, IoT, IoE, LBS, etc., tends to justify the use of this expression. But we had to understand. We tried to understand how much the 4.0 technologies have penetrated Italian urban life, and whether these changes involves a widespread improvement in a general condition of inhabitants of the society in general, or if these changes can increase the gap between smart cities and struggling cities. And we tried to answer this question using a social, economic, and a socio-cultural geographical approach, different from the traditional ones before adopted. As you know, the fourth industrial revolution is slightly different if compared to the previous technological revolutions. And what distinguishes this particular revolution from the previous ones is the speed. The speed with which technological changes are occurring, the extent, the intensity of connections and transformation, and first of all, the impact that this revolution is determining in all the society and all the production processes and the work. So far, we can say that this revolution has been studied mainly by technological disciplines and economic disciplines. But we considering the complexity of the phenomenon, we decided to adopt another point of view, another geographic and social-cultural point of view, in order to understand the connections between economic and technological spheres and try to outline future scenarios. From geographic point of view, usually the focus is on how territorial systems and in general cities are strengthened and or transformed by technologies in terms of forms of landscapes and in terms of economic and other social and cultural components. In this map, we can see the diffusion distribution of the ADSL connectivity using a grid of 1 kilometer of cells, and you can perceive the spatial differences between the northern and the southern part of the peninsula, for example. And in general, the internetworks, investments in sensors, 5G technologies, robotics, online platform, all technologies are changing production spaces, cities, and society, making them smarter and more connected system in a physical and digital space, but also they can increase the gaps between different contexts. Technology is a powerful agent for a transformation from territorial transformation, from space transformation. And always in the history of a human society, technology has created new spatiality and new multiscalar connection. In our empirical work, we focus on the spatial distribution of 4-point technology patents obtained by Italian inventors between 5 years, between 2016 and 2021, considered at a NUTS 3 level. In general, in literature, the patents distribution has been considered at NUTS 2 level, so is a region in Italy, but NUTS 3 is a level, is sub-regional levels. And this comparative analysis allows us to outline a new picture of the geographies of inequalities linked to Industry 4.0 technologies and to reflect on the policies connected to them, which should consider different response capacities of territorial context to smart paradigm and to current technological path. And can Industry 4.0 technologies can take advantages or create more disparities? The answer to this question is not easy to give, but it's not easy to have the real picture of the situation. In this map, you can see the different distribution of the employment rate, the variation of the employment rate during the last decade, 2010 and 2020 in Italy, and we tried to connect this context indicator to technology spread in Italy. Assuming that the smartness degree of a territory is expressed by the improvement of the quality of life of inhabitants, we considered important to analyze what is the response at the introduction of this technology, and whether they play a role in increasing social inequalities or in the country in the reduction of the pre-existing gaps with evident repercussions in the political and in territorial governance choices. It's important to rethink policies to reduce inequalities and improve the different types of regions through the promotion of place-sensitive development logics and the integration of various actions. And also it's important to intervene on standard contextual factors such as education, employment, infrastructures, etc., and on the absorptive capacity of technologies by local systems and the specific innovative potential in terms of digital infrastructure, technological competencies, combination between advanced technologies and manufacturing sectors. In these slides, you can see two different maps in the previous are represented enterprises investing in projects of innovation, only considering the 14 metropolitan cities in Italy. And it's evident that you can group cities in three groups. The first one with the highest values that consider Milan, Rome, and Turin. The second one groups Naples, Florence, Bologna, Bari, and Venice with intermediate values, and the remaining metropolitan cities such as Genoa, Palermo, Catania, Messina, Cagliari, and Reggio Calabria have the lowest values of investment in digital sector. In the second map, we represented the categories of investment in digital sector. And is for each metropolitan cities, there's a high propensity towards infrastructure, optic, fiber, 4 and 5G connectivity, and these two categories hold the majority share of the investment. And in this case, we can consider this choice at the same time as an indication of a primary need of the firms, enterprises, but also it's an important gap in terms of infrastructure, of digital accessibility. Regarding the Industry 4.0 patent distribution, we used the European Patent Office database in order to have the figure of the distribution of patents, all patents issued in the last 5 years across not 3 areas in Italy, and related to all related to Industry 4.0 technologies. It's not easy to reach all these patents, but in this today is not there's no space for describe this methodology. We decided to use 2 different classifications. A broader one this is a standard EPO classification, and a narrower, more restricted selection of cooperative patent classification according more recent literature. I put the reference of the study, but you can read in the proceedings if you want. And the results I come to explain quickly, present two different pictures of the country. The first map is related to EPO classification, and the second one is the more selected, the more restricted selection. And we are considering the first cases. In the first case, about 1,600 patents, and in the second, almost 400 patents. In the first case, we can see immediately on market concentration in the central and northern provinces, with a slight exception of Naples and Palermo. Milan, Turin, and Rome are attested with significantly higher values compared to the other provincial averages, and data confirms the relevance of these three areas in the ability to produce new technologies in connection with the economic development, the concentration of universities and research centers, and qualified human resources. The provinces included in Lombardy, Veneto, and Emilia-Romagna regions, which are the most industrialized areas of the country and present a tradition in small and medium-sized manufacturing, have a more homogeneous and continuous distribution. Other Italian metropolitan areas emerge, such as Bologna, Florence, and Genoa, but also provinces with smaller cities oriented towards Industry 4.0, thanks to the university research activities such as Pisa, Padua, and Trento, or thanks to a manufacturing context more oriented towards technologies changes, such as Bergamo, Brescia, Treviso, and Parma. This classification reveals a widespread presence of patent production in Italy, which, however, excludes the provinces that are geographically more marginalized or specialized in other activities, such as agriculture and tourism. The restricted classification considers approximately a quarter of the previous selection patents, and the distribution is especially more selective and strongly unequal between areas of the central, north, and southern Italy. This classification strengthens metropolitan areas and those areas that rely on high-level university or specialized in scientific technological disciplines. For instance, Pisa. Pisa is a university city, and in this case, Pisa emerges from the previous picture. But in all the provinces characterized by a marginality linked to the predominantly mountainous territorial configuration or in internal area position are excluded from the innovation processes that go through patents. And the picture that emerges from the map is definitely alarming. Large areas of the southern center and the islands are not affected by phenomenon of Industry 4.0 patent. Concluding, this comparative analysis of the impact of the growing diffusion of the Industry 4.0 technologies and smart dynamics in the Italian urban system allows us not only to outline a picture of the difference, but also to reflect on the policies connected to them, which often have replicated initiatives without considering the different territorial characteristics and the different response capacity of urban context. The results coming from this analysis, although differing in quantity and quality of the data covered, in outlining a strong gap between the leading areas of the country and the South that struggles to reach the development levels of the Central North. In addition to highlighting the critical differences in geographical location of Industry 4.0 technologies, this research confirms the role of the accumulative effects derived from the concentration of the technological capabilities and of the spatial proximity to knowledge production centers or to advanced firms. The factors of socioeconomic marginality and those of a geographical one, such as morphology, position, accessibility, further explain the picture of the difference, even within the most advanced regions. Next steps, we'll try to understand whether the need to rapidly adopt Industry 4.0 solutions will help to increase the gap between developed and marginal areas, or on the contrary, if it will accelerate development processes in the short and the medium term. It seems crucial in general, concluding, to promote place-based policies in terms of advanced infrastructures, technologies, support for businesses, material and digital accessibility, smart services, accompanied by territorial animation projects, enhancement of the quality of life, promotion of research, training and new entrepreneurship, which aims to achieve dynamic of counter-trend and reduce inequalities. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Paola Zamberlin, for your presentation. There are any question from the room or from the home, from the remote? Okay. We spend some minutes at the end of the session for some general comment and specific comment on all presentation. Okay, we move on the next one presentation presented by Sabrina Sgambati, Gerardo Carpentieri, I don't know who is, and Carmela Gargiulo. The title is Measuring Urban Competitiveness through the Lens of Sustainability. The stage is yours.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to present our work. We are from the Department of Civil Building and Environmental Engineering at the University of Naples Federico II, and we are part of a group of research which is called TemaLab, whose field of expertise is mainly urban planning, and we deal with the future challenges that cities will afford in the future, and especially with dealing with territorial and environmental and mobility issues. So I will present this work that we developed together with Gerardo and with Professor Carmela Gargiulo about urban competitiveness, and specifically the relationship between urban competitiveness and achievement of sustainable development goals at the district level, which represent a novelty in the scientific panorama, since most of the research about the topic focus on the on wider territorial scale. Well, the topic of urban competitiveness has become very important since and has broadened since the 90s due to phenomena like globalization, the liberalization of markets, and urbanization. And also because nowadays cities can be considered as the main engine of the global development. And so they are the main reservoirs of not only economic, but also social, human, physical resources. And the topic has become increasingly important also for the governance of territorial and urban transformation, because it deals with not only the economic development of a territory, but also with the wellness and quality of life of its inhabitants. It is mainly the same approach that we have seen in the previous presentation, so the presentation about the smartness. It's always a matter also of quality of life and of wellness of the citizens and city users. And specifically, the topic of urban competitiveness has become also linked to the challenges that cities will afford in the future, namely climate change, an aging population, migration inflows. That's why the approach of this research considers urban competitiveness as the ability to attract investment, people, high quality activities in a territory, thanks to the characteristics of the territory, but also the ability of our urban system to self-organize and deal with these future challenges. So to seize the opportunity of a world that is changing and transform this opportunity into higher, into a competitive advantage. This implies that urban competitiveness studies are characterized by a multidimensional approach. So there are different dimensions that converge in the concept of urban competitiveness. And many studies and reports consider different components that are important for the competitiveness of territories. And as I mentioned before, the district level is a novelty in the scientific panorama. In this slide, we have shown word cloud with the most recurrent keywords in a sample of articles recollected by Scopus, in the database of Scopus. Of course, they are articles about urban competitiveness, and so we can see this multidimensional approach because we can see a lot of keywords like also climate change, urbanization, economic development. But what we want to highlight is the presence of sustainability. So recently, sustainability has become very important to define the competitive level of a territory. That's why we want to merge these two concepts into one methodology. Comparing competitiveness and sustainability of territories at the district level. This is because, sustainability is made up of three components. So a social component, an environmental component, and economic component. And we can see easily the relationship with the competitiveness. Because of course, inclusive and fair cities are competitive because they are able to attract people who want to live there. On the other hand, environmental quality also enhance the competitive level also for companies, for sustainable companies that want to establish in a certain territory. And then there is the economic development, of course, which is linked to competitiveness, but in a different way. So on the basis of this scientific framework, we have developed our own methodology, starting with the identification of the urban characteristics that are more important to describe this relationship, and then the selection of the descriptive variables that are meaningful for these urban characteristics. Then we have calculated the indicators, thanks also to the use of QGIS, and so developing a GIS model. And then we have calculated a synthetic indicators of competitiveness, considering the goals of Agenda 2030, and then representing the results using both bar graphs and tables and also maps. So for the selection of urban characteristics, we related mainly to these 9 reports, which are at different scales, not only at the urban scale, but also at the territorial and country scale. But we have contextualized, of course, these reports in the smaller scale of districts. And we have merged these results with those development goals that are significant for the phenomenon that we want to analyze. And so we have selected these goals among the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, because they are important to define the urban competitiveness of districts. So by the merge of these 2 inputs, we have identified the main urban characteristics, and then we have detected the corresponding descriptive variables. And the second step was the calculation of indicator that referred to these categories. The categories of indicators correspond to the goals that we have chosen. And so good health and well-being, quality education, decent work and economic growth, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, and climate action. In order to compare these indicators and to aggregate them in a synthetic index, we have normalized them using the min-max method. And so this is a scheme of our methodology. So we have started with I don't know if it's, yes, started with the identification of the urban characteristics, so merging the reports and the goals. Then we have identified the variables corresponding to the indicators of our matrix of data. The indicators have been normalized, as I mentioned before, and then we have aggregated these normalized indicators, firstly in intermediate indicator corresponding to each of the goals that we have selected, and then to a final index that is representative of the overall level of competitiveness of each district. These are some examples of the representation of results. As I said before, we have used GIS and bar graphs, but we can see it in the application of this methodology. We have chosen the city of Naples because it is relevant to the model that we have developed, since every district presents its vocation and also its disadvantage if we talk about sustainability and competitiveness. We have distinguished different zones within the city of Naples, specifically the central zone that embeds all the districts of the city center, and the inner zone that, of course, present their differences, but also some similarities about settlement, social, and physical variables. And then we have identified the peripheral zone. Also in this zone, we can see some differences, but we will show it in the next slides that, well, highlight the differences in terms of competitiveness between the city centers and all the districts in the peripheral zone. In order to develop our own methodology, we have selected data from open source websites, so from the city of Naples, and also from European database like the Copernicus database. And so this is the final map that we have obtained by developing the index of competitiveness. As you can see, we have chosen a categorized representation of the district, in which the blue ones are the more competitive, while the red ones are the more critical districts, so the more disadvantaged compared to the city, to the center of the city, which, as you can see, is the most competitive. So, in particular, the districts of Chiaia, Vomero, and Arenella are the most competitive districts, thanks to the presence of services, thanks to also the social characteristics of the inhabitants, while the district in the suburbs present the main disadvantage, on which the public administration should intervene in the future. we will want to show you also, well, the intermediate indicators. So specifically, this maps is about the intermediate indicator corresponding to the goal 3, so good health and well-being. Because, well, there are some differences, of course, if we compare this map to the overall level of competitiveness. And in fact, as you can see here, the district of the city centers are the less competitive. Maybe because of the lack of healthcare service in those areas that are, well, for their settlement characteristics, it's not so easy, it's not that easy to establish a new healthcare service. While the peripheral zone are expansion zone in which healthcare service can be established. And this is another map concerning another goal, the reduced inequality goal. And in this map, we can see a correspondence with the overall level of competitiveness. So there is this relationship. While in this map, we have seen a different situation. As you can see, this is the global competitiveness index. This is the index regarding the reduced inequalities. So they are comparable. So also in this case, the district of the city center are the most competitive. And well, another result of our research, which can be also of support for decision maker to choose which kind of intervention could be useful in the future to overcoming these differences, these inequalities in terms of competitiveness and sustainability, and also to valorize well those systems that are in which these districts are more competitive, is this representation. We have chosen specifically two relevant districts, and in particular Mercato district, because this district is within the city center, but is one of the less competitive in our application. And the other is the Miano district, which ranks, which is at the bottom of our ranking. So it could be, well, interesting to see the different score in each of the goals that we have chosen in order to intervene in the right sectors to improve the future competitiveness of these districts. And so for the Mercato district, we have identified as the less competitive sectors the quality education, good health and well-being, decent work and economic growth, and responsible consumption and production, in which, as you can see, the score is 0. Of course, because the index is standardized between 0 and 100. So for this goal, the Mercato district is the less competitive at all. While for the Miano district, we can see that the situation is quite similar. And maybe the only difference is for sustainable cities and communities. So this model could be of support for decision makers to understand in which of these aspects intervene to improve the competitive level of the district in the future. So the main result of this study is the development of this quite simple methodology, but that can well highlight the competitiveness of the district. So at the district level, which is a novelty in the scientific panorama, compared with the sustainability of district, and also this application to the city of Naples that can be important for understanding how to intervene in the city in the future, also to make all the city more competitive at the international level. The future development of our study will be, of course, the improvement of the methodology by extending also the system of indicators and assigning weights to the variables that for now have equal weights in our model, and also the elaboration of a set of indicators that could be of further support for decision makers to understand also which kind of intervention can be, which kind of action can be taken to well, improve all the criticism that we have seen in the previous slides. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina. There are any questions from the room or from the virtual connection?
Oh, yes. First of all, congratulations for your work. It's very interesting. I just have one doubt. You mentioned that you get right. You consider some physical parameters. Did you think about considering the logics of centrality in the competitiveness of the neighborhoods? If they are central or not in the whole logic of central distribution of the system. In centrality, there is movement.
Okay, in terms of accessibility.
Yes, in relative accessibility. Right.
Okay. Yes, it will be a further implementation of our work because, of course, for example, you have seen the graph about, well, the health and well-being, and we have seen that the central districts are the less competitive about this. But yes, maybe in the, well, within, not within the district, but nearby the district, there are healthcare services that can be reached easily by the population. So yes, of course, it could be a further improvement of our research.
Okay, so now another question. Do you plan to maybe not improve the level of detail, diminish the scale in maybe census zones, for example?
Well,
you might have the data because I started to use this. I'm talking this because you have done very similar research. So, I mean, it's very interesting.
Thank you. I think it would be pointless to concentrate on this type of scale for assessing the competitiveness. Also, the district scale is an exception because if you see all the reports about urban competitiveness are at the metropolitan area level or also at the city level, it is rare to see this kind of study. But of course, we believe that this is important because, for example, in the PNR situation, we have a lot of fundings that we have to spend currently with the vocations and the characteristics of the territory. So if you look at the district scale, it could be useful to understand where to locate these resources. Okay, but if we go if we deepen the scale, so to the statistical units, maybe it would be not so easy to understand how to distribute the resources. Yes. I don't know if I answered to your question.
Yes, you answered. No, I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very, very.
Thank you.
Just a consideration.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I arrived in the middle of your presentation because I was already in the other session. So I was wondering. So I just see maybe we can speak also later, but it's a way of operate in a city really similar to our way to analyze the different kinds. So maybe we can discuss together in order to compare also the two cities, but to find a model or something in order to find some correlation between the two cities. So just a consideration because I saw really similar
result. Okay.
Results or indicators, something that we love too much.
Yeah.
So
okay, thank you.
Just
it would be a pleasure. Another one.
No. I saw Paola. Paola, could you listen to us? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just to say hello. I'm sorry, but we are like a family, so. Hi, Paola.
Ciao, Chiara.
There are the last presentation. The work was presented by Roberto Dell'Otto, Elisabetta Maria Venco, but I don't know there is any people. Okay. Yes. Marilisa Moretti, the next one. Okay, perfect. Okay, the stage is yours. We don't hear you. We see your screen, but don't hear your voice. Try to
Marilisa.
switch on. Marilisa, switch on the microphone.
No. Okay.
Okay, just a second. Okay. No, we don't hear you. No.
Try to go out and go in.
Try to go out and go in again, or use a external microphone. We don't hear you. No. Where is the weapon?
I don't know.
No. Try in the setting panel to change the microphone sources.
Do you hear me now?
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, please.
Okay, good afternoon.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I start. Oh, sorry. Okay. In this session, authors present a very surprising result: the lack of correlation between land use and emission in the area of Pavia province. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change states that land use plays a key role in the production of greenhouse gases. Indeed, human activities can lead to the production of pollutants in the atmosphere or their absorption. We focused on analyzing the role played by land use and therefore human activities on the production of pollutants in Lombardy region in Italy. Air pollution levels in Lombardy remain high and above the European average. Some pollutants have slightly increasing their concentration in the last 2 years due to meteorological and climate variation. The meteorological situation of this area is peculiar, and this affects the concentration level, the diffusion and the dispersion of pollutant in the air. The Lombard industrial system is characterized by a wide variety of economic activities, and industry is a significant and massive source of organic compounds and particulates in quantities that vary according to the processing. In the residential sector in Lombardy, there are about 3 million installations, and the majority being fueled by methane gas and resulting in emission of sulfur dioxides, carbon oxides, and nitrogen oxides, which are the main causes of the heavy pollution characteristic, especially of large cities in the winter period. Moreover, Lombardy ranks as one of the main agricultural regions of Europe, and the progress that this sector has seen has led to great growth in agriculture and consequently cause an impact on the environment, making it one of the main causes of pollution in the Po Valley. The choice of the study fell on a province of Lombardy region, that is Pavia. That is the most agricultural, one of the most agricultural province in Lombardy. Its geographical and physical characteristic made it one of the most disadvantaged areas in Europe in the term of air quality. The close conformation, the poor ventilation, the frequent thermal inversion, and the high rate of industrialization and agricultural areas contribute to the degree of the pollution. And this paper aimed to verify at local level the provincial trend of the relationship between land use and polluting emission using correlation analysis of demographic, economic, environmental, and territorial indicators at a provincial level and in the most emissive municipalities. In the high-density urban environment, the soil is an important regulator of the climate change and is related to the air quality. The knowledge of the dynamic relating to land use is strategic for territorial planning, and it allows a full understanding of the current situation of the territory and at the same time allows monitoring the in-progress changes and predicting the possible future change. Land use status indicators are obtained with a quantitative geographic approach. Geographical elements in a urban context are surface, perimeters, and percentage distribution of overall area. Their objective value can be used as a quantitative indicators, and in this case, we reach them with the database USAF or Lombardy. The first analysis was performed on entire province, considering the different air pollution, the population density, and the GDP. And this is the table of the different range of the correlation analysis. And we can see the massive presence of strong positive correlation. Few pairs of elements show a mild positive correlation, which means there is not a strong dependence between them. For example, ammonia, PTS, CO2, and PM10. Moreover, as expected, it can be seen that as emissions increase, income also increase as the population and the population density. Emission also increase. This is the graphic that shows the previous table. Now we can consider the municipal dimension. As a first step, we analyze the most emissive municipality, most emissive in relation to the CO2, because these 7 municipalities produce over than 9 kilotons year of CO2. The main feature of each municipality are different with the respect to population density, spatial dimension, and GDP. And due to the distribution of the urban function, they are the most emissive entities in the province. For example, for Pavia, for the surface, Sanazzaro de Burgondi and Ferrere Bognone for the industries. In this table, as already performed for the correlation between the municipality and the previous indicators. And the graph shows the different correlation we obtain. There are different kinds of correlation: strong positive, for example, to NOx and PAH; mild positive, for example, SO2 and CO2; mild negative, CO2 and population density; and strong negative, for example, population density and NO2. And then we continue our work with the analysis of agricultural area, urban settlement, and industrial sites of these 7 municipalities. The analysis and the visualization of this study is made by a table and in the scatter and with a scatter plot. Agricultural areas in this case. For each municipality, we assume that CO2 was the most representative pollution parameter in the concept of the real pollution situation in relation to the agricultural fraction, expressed in square meter. As shown, there is a negative correlation between agricultural area and CO2. So the parameters, agricultural land and CO2, are in a inverse relationship. And then, urban settlement. And then urban settlement, and for each municipality we assumed CO2 as a pollution parameter representative, and is the table and the scatter plot of industrial in urban settlement, but the names are changed. And also in this case, there is a negative correlation between areas of urban settlement and CO2. Industrial site. We assume also in this case CO2 and industrial site in square meter. And as shown in the table and in the scatter plot, there is an irrelevant negative correlation between industrial site and the CO2. So, the presented correlation analysis aimed to highlight evidence among the human activities and pollution emission in the province of Pavia and in the most polluted municipality of the selected territory in terms of CO2. The human activities are synthesized with the extension in square meter of land use, agricultural land, urban settlement areas, and industrial area. The source of territorial data is the Geoportale of Lombardy region, that is an open source data that consider a group of activities based on their similarity. Industrial, artisan, for example, are combined in this case. The correlation between the global pollutant for the whole province territory allows us to be confident about the research hypothesis. Water merge is a novelty because we expected that will be a direct relationship between urban, industrial, and agricultural area with emission, and is the total lack of correlation between land uses and total emission. The correlation is not only weak but also negative, and this result is absolutely surprising. The reason for this could depend on the low sensitivity of single activity extension with the global data. And in the Lombard region scale, for example, the agriculture is the driving force for the 6% of PM10, and industrial activity are driving force for around 10% of PM10. The correlation, some correlation are positive in the previous table, but low. For example, the correlation index between industrial settlement and PM10 is 0.59. The behavior of this parameter makes sense considering the linear impact of correlation and the global emission. The next step of the research will be the analysis of regression index and compare the correlation index and the regression index. And another step of the research can be the comparison among global data coming from different provinces of the Lombardy region. Thanks for the attention.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There are some questions from the group. Okay. If you come here, the people that say so near you. Thank
you. Thanks for the presentation. I want to know if you have tried some kind of multiple linear regression, and what kind of software have you used for the numerical computations?
Sorry, but
you don't hear?
I don't hear very well.
Thanks for the presentation.
Okay.
I'm going to know if you have tried some kind of multiple linear regression, because I think you have tried only one variable, no?
Yeah. Okay. The multiple correlation. I think that the multiple correlation can be another thing to try, but from my research, I understand that the multiple linear correlation is for spatial correlation, because in this case we make a relation between some indicators that don't have the same measure. For example, square meter and percentage. For example, euros and CO2. And this is another step. Can be another step of our research. Yes, I think about the multiple correlation.
And what software have you used for the numerical computations?
The software, Excel. Microsoft Excel.
Excel. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Thank you.
Any question? Other question? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you, Marilisa. And thank you to all authors that participate to this session. I think that we can move to the next session. So thank you, the people that follow this session in rooms, in presence, and the people that stay from the office to follow us and to participate to our discussion.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao Paola. Grazie mille. No, ma se no devo farlo io.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am very glad that I can open this last session. Of course, only today, because the conference is just starting. We have a few more days ahead. So, right now, in our last session, there are 4 papers planned. The first will be presented by me, and then there are 3 others. So let me check if there is one of the authors of the second article, Searching for Heterogeneous Geolocated Services. Is there someone? Can you give us feedback if you can hear us, if you are online? Can you open? Okay, is there someone, some of the authors? Not.
No.
Not maybe not yet. We will see. Then okay. Then I see Kristina Murinova from the third paper. Are you online? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect, perfect. So thank you. And is here an author of the last paper, a reactive grasp algorithm for the multi-depot vehicle routing problem.
I'm here. I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's hope that everything will work correctly. And so maybe I can just start the first one if everybody is ready. So okay, perfect. Thank you very much for the support. I am very glad that I have the privilege to be part of such an interesting team of researchers. Next presented article communication as a part of smart government local municipalities is a result of all these team members: Katerina Kutarišová, Kamila Borčeková, Anna Vaňová, Darina Rojikova, and me. We all work for the Matej University. What is a university in Slovakia? So we are going to offer you some, I hope, interesting information that were gathered not only from our country but also from other European countries. So the first thing is a motivation. I am sure that all of us, we all are aware that communication of local municipalities with all partners, all stakeholders in the specific territory, their participation, development, cooperation, and partnership are the main preconditions for dynamic development of the territory. What does it mean? It means that today, without appropriate communication, we couldn't move to the next level. Today, we have already the opportunity to see other papers that already presentations presented. For example, development from BET 1.0, 2.0, and so on. So today, there are really various tools, various communication media that all we can use, or we are using right now. And so that's why we focus and that's why.
Cos'è che vuole? Io sto lavorando, in questo momento non ho tempo di stare a ascoltare promotion o cose del genere. Abbia pazienza, lavoro e ora, come lei sta lavorando, anch'io lavoro. Va bene? Arrivederci.
Yeah. You have to switch off the microphone. Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Continue that our aim was to define the specifics of communication by local governments implemented by small municipalities, and then to propose how communication can be developed in line with the concept of smart governance, reflecting the human and financial limits of smaller municipalities. I will start from the end of this quite long sentence. Why small municipalities? Well, situation in Slovakia is, I would say, similar to other Central and Eastern European countries, where the local government is very fragmented. Actually, in Slovakia, over 95% of municipalities are very small, up to 5,000 inhabitants. That's why they have a lot of limitations due to the human financial issues, and that's why we focus our research on this target, on this group. So let me outline the presentation. Can you go back one slide? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so in the paper, and as it will be published, you could read the description of specifics of communication tools. These are rather general, so that's why I didn't include it into the presentation, also due to time reason. And I'd like to focus directly on our research. As I said, I'm glad that I will present the results that were gathered by the whole team. And we did actually two methods. So in the first round, we focused on primary research, used the Delta method, and as I already mentioned, we focused on small municipalities with less than 5,000 inhabitants. And we also, as a second step, we did a research where we observed the situation, the current situation, current tools that are used by the local municipalities in Slovakia. And the end, as I already said today, at the end we formulated some recommendations. So let's go straight to research methods. First of all papers need some statistics. Economics, everything. So let's start with some statistics that prove our statement, our expectations that situation, what is the level of the current situation. According to your statistics, in the last years, 44% of EU citizens obtained some information from websites and public authorities during the last 12 months. It's the standard statistic that is investigated year by year. So comparing this situation about 10 years ago, we can see quite nice progress because this percentage, 45%, has risen from 33%. But you know what is the problem with statistics? I don't want to be against it, but I mean, what is the problem with averages? Averages give us just overview, and you know the joke that your neighbor had a dinner and you didn't have it. So in average, you out the dinner, and yeah, that's the problem, especially if you are the one who didn't have it. And we can see that the situation in Europe is a little bit similar to this job because we can see large, big differences. So I chose just a few countries. So it's quite known that Nordic countries like Denmark, Sweden, and so on, they are quite developed in this area of e-government services. So the level of usage is much higher than, for example, in European countries like Bulgaria, Romania. Yeah, it's presently also Italy. So that's why, because of this relatively low percentage, in fact, Slovakia is also similar to the lower. You know, someone see problem, someone see it negatively, but it's only point of view. We can see these relatively low numbers as an opportunity, to rise, to improve. And yeah, this was actually one of the motivations, one of the aims of our research, to provide local municipalities information how can they do this better. So let's go to the method. So as I already mentioned, the first one was that method. We invited almost 300 experts in this field to participate. At the final, we managed to process 73 answers or experts who gave us their opinions to the selected problems. You can see the structure, for example, from various countries. So this was also our intention to see not only point of view of solar researchers, people from practice, people from municipalities, from IT sector, but to have such a global overview over this topic. So this was the first one. The second one was really manual and observation of statistical documents, websites, other materials of these small local municipalities. You can see structure on this chart, and as I mentioned, the majority of municipalities are very small, and in our research sample, it was 253 local municipalities, basic communications analyzed. So what we would say, what we see. So in this presentation, I have chosen just a few chart tables. So in the first one, that comes from this second research, from this manual observation of the communication tools that municipalities are actually using. And on this chart, you can see that it's quite a result that maybe we could also expect, that most used tool is, of course, the website of the municipality. Fortunately, almost all investigated municipalities are using these tools. Then the second most popular tool was multi-social network, Facebook. The third one was already. This is what I maybe didn't stress at the beginning, but we investigated not only electronic ways of communication, but we focus our research on all kinds of communication. So this was the third most popular, contacting stakeholders like standard mail, and email, and so on. Then we have online communication. You can see these online communication possibilities that they are used by approximately, let's say, one third of investigated municipalities. What is relatively small number? You will see how it will be in comparison with this opinion of experts. So this online communication is one third, then it continues, and the least used are again, as you can expect, other social media, and yeah, just some of them. So then I decided to show you this chart in which we compare and analyze whether there is some relation the relation between the size of the municipality and usage of these tools. As you can see on the chart, there are actually no significant differences. You can see this each communication factor indicating with different colors the size of the municipality. And as I said, there are no significant differences except, for example, discussion forum for stakeholders. In the discussion forum, we can see that it correlates. It really depends. It's in the graphical representation. You see that it depends on the size, as the share of the smallest was really smallest also according to the usage, and the highest value when it comes to number of inhabitants also correlates with the intensity of the use. So we compared these communication channels usage with the opinion of experts, which ways of communication in today's world, according to these possibilities of this communication, which of them do they recommend? You can see that the highest value and the mostly recommended tool was online feedback system from stakeholders. It was the highest average value, so it was mostly recommended. And we can also see the smallest standard deviations, which gives us the idea whether there was a variance, whether they agreed. And in this case, as it is the smallest, comparing with other values, it is the smallest value, so we can see that they most of them agreed that these two-way communication systems are essential today. So this was, by the way, one of the main findings that this online feedback system discussion forum for stakeholders. So possibilities for inhabitants not only to be just passive consumers of information that are provided by the website, but it seems that it will be quite effective to have a platform in which they can ask, they can give the municipality a feedback, and then they will give them, let's say, answers. They are also expecting that there will be forums in which they can participate on discussions and so on. So public discussions, online communication, and so on. So as I would like to come to end of the presentation, to keep the time. So as I said, main findings comparing this aspect of online of communication, especially using these online tools and methods, is that experts recommend two-way communication, open discussions, possibilities for people to actively participate, and the practice showed us for now. Let's hope that the situation will change. It's also our intention for future research how to motivate, how to share this information with municipalities, how to improve this situation in Slovakia. So this information you can find in the paper in case you will be interested. So again, let me conclude that this research showed that all these tools are important because, for example, sometimes it's point of view. This online, this recommended two-way communication system, they are mostly part of the website of the party. And today, the situation is changing. While 10 or 20 years ago, it was quite difficult and time consuming and also expensive to have such a solutions. Today, using various open source content management systems that are available, it is possible to achieve this goal, to achieve this multi-channel communication between different municipalities and us people. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your attention. In case there are any questions, thank you. Okay. So, for now, no questions from here. Is there any question from our online colleagues? If not, let's move to second presentation. So I can see Paolo Messi here, who could probably present the second article. Are you ready? Paolo, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Is it possible to hear?
Yes, Professor Messi.
Okay. Professor Messi.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you well.
Okay.
You can open your presentation and
Screen.
Share the screen.
I can share the screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. We can see your presentation.
Okay, so I can start. May I start?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the paper. Thank you, Chairman. So I can start explaining the paper, searching for heterogeneous geolocated services via API Federation, that we have developed here at the University of Florence in the context of Snap4 City environment. The problem main arise from the fact that many GSI solutions are usually oriented on administrative boundaries for instance, for province or region and so on. But on the other hand, many of the services are geographically distributed, like transport system information that you see on the right side, or sensor for traffic flows or environmental data that are not constrained to be in a single administrative geographic area. So there are many aspects that are and services that are transversal to different administration area, while geographic information systems are typically located in administrative region. So in addition, there are several non-administrative information that are also overlapped from different locations. We see here the Milan area or Bergamo area, and so services in most cases are overlapped from different region. So in the analysis, we have identified two main cases that are reported here on the left side regarding the overlap and regarding the inclusion of services. So it's possible to have a geographic area in which you may have different services coming from different regions and shared and overlapped in different area. And also you may have different region with inclusion. The example reported in the map refers to the case A with the overlap. So you see many sensors, many devices and services in the left upper corner, in which there are reported the services for Tuscany, and the picture aside also report the services for the Emilia-Romagna region. But when you see those cases, you see that there are a few services also outside the region, because there are some, for instance, a transport system that start in a region and finish in another, and so they are overlapped. So this kind of solution also came from the needs of creating integrated architecture in which you may have different services, for instance, for parking covering different region, or smart light covering different region of energy or whatever. So these are the new, this kind of infrastructure are now quite diffuse. We have, for instance, the Snafford City, one of those infrastructure in which we have data and we are managing multiple installation in the Snafford City community that are installed by different operators and covering different geographic area. Some of these geographic areas disjoined, the other are overlapped, the other are completely included each other. So you see here the map for the coverage in Europe, but there are also some coverage outside Europe. So the infrastructure for Snafford City is also a solution that allows to connect any kind of services, not only to collect data, but also to provide services. And so these data are flowing from the operators to the infrastructure, and the infrastructure is sharing this data to the other operators or directly in the user interface for control room and decision support system for operator, making prediction, anomaly detection, and all the other things. At the basis of this, there is a solution that allows to collect any kind of data coming from brokers, so from IoT, from geographic information system, from satellite, from social media, from any other sources of stakeholders that you may have in the area, and to bring this kind of information in some big data storage and provide dashboard and the visual decision support system for the operators and final users. So the complexity of this kind of very large infrastructure is very high and cover many standards that are reported here in these slides. So not only IoT standards, but also general internet standards for communication and formats and database and so on. So this kind of very complex infrastructure bring the data and make the data available in some semantic database, as I have shown you before, and the data collected can be of different kind. So point of interest, IoT device, shapes, geographic information system like maps, orthomaps, and WFS, WMS data, satellite data, traffic flow, trajectories, 3D shapes for the city and also for BIM, origin destination matrices or synoptics and KPIs and so on. So many different data. So after the analysis of this large analysis, we identify a number of requirements that should be satisfied by a federated system of storage data that could be underline the data sharing in the federation of different infrastructure to allow the single operator, the single region, to autonomously operate in their data, but at the same time to put at disposal of the other infrastructure some of the data that they would like to share, maybe open data or data that are commonly available. So we identify this long list of requirements. I am not going to explain each of them, that will take too much time, but some of them are very relevant, such as the possibilities to have this dynamic decision by each area to share or to block some of the data kind that they may have in the network, and to have the possibilities to interoperate with at the semantic level from different area, also including some area with these which are native FiWare and GSI version 2, or which are native based on GIS protocols. So the solution that I am going to show you in the next slides has been tested in this kind of infrastructure, in which a certain number of federated infrastructure have been used. You see there are some infrastructure, some regions that are covered by the same infrastructure, reported with the same color. For instance, Bosnia, Greek, France, and Spain are covered by the same infrastructure, and also Tuscany and center of Italy and Sweden and Belgium are covered by the same, and so on. So this is the testing environment. The solution was allow us to create this super for federating different smart city APIs, to allow dashboard or mobile app to connect to any of those infrastructure, but recovering the data from all of them according to the geographic interest and query that we have. So this is also the mechanism for connecting the FiWare native infrastructure based on Orion Broker, Quantum Leap, through the block that is called here SSM to Orion Broker, passing through the adapter that is called the Super. So it's possible for each application based on dashboard or mobile app to just query the Super to connect to the whole infrastructure of different areas. And so this could allow even to use the same mobile app in all Europe to pass in a pervasive manner to one region to another. So the infrastructure reported here is the description of Snap4 City, in which there is a part for collecting data and a part for federating the query with other instances identical to this one. So I am not going to go in detail for the lack of time. And for testing and also to provide the tool for analyzing the federation of this kind of services, we created what is called the multi-service map, which is a tool that can be connected to the single knowledge base as well as to the federated query service like Super. And the Super, we may have in the network many Super. This means that the mobile app could have a list of possible entry point to which ask for a service for data provider. So this is an example of the multi-service map that is accessible with this link free of charge. If you are registered on one of the service map on one of the Snafford City federated, you can access to it from any location, so it's operative. And so there is a framework. There is a possibilities to use the single sign-on to make the registration only one point to the whole network. At the end, apart to the definition of the model and also to the implementation of the tool, we have also performed some performance analysis, which are reported in the paper for different cases. This is an example of the overlap services. And obviously, in the access to the federated network, we lose a part of the performance. So there is something to pay for using the Super network, the federated access to the network. But as a result, you avoid to get duplicated services. So the duplication of service are removed, automatically removed by the Super service. And we see here, for instance, with the Florence knowledge base and Garda Lake knowledge base in the area, a total of 103,000 services should be the addition of number of resources, number of results of both knowledge base, while the effective results was 91,000. So the other 12,276 were duplicated data automatically removed by the system. So at the expenses of a small reduction of performance in terms of a few seconds. So these are graphs reporting the performance analysis. So we obtained a quite similar performance in both cases. The cases are case A1, A2 refers to single point and transversal services. Single point are point of interest or single sensor, while transversal services are, for instance, the route of bus stops and bus lines or railways lines or cycling path or whatever. So complex structures that may start in a region and finish in another one. So there is very similar performance in both cases, and with a very high number of duplication. The test was done with even with a 75% of duplication that were in efficient manner removed. There is another case for included area. The creation of fully overlapped area can be very useful for creating redundant cases. So for using to have multiple instances of the same knowledge base covering the same area for replicating the service to make it more robust and so on. So we see here also in this case that the duplication have been removed, and the time, so the execution time, you see here 12, close to 12 seconds in all cases that are very similar to the single execution case that is for Garda and DISIT. In this case, 3 different knowledge bases have been used to cover the same area. And the two, Garda Lake and DISIT, were more or less the same number of results. You see here very large overlaps among them in terms of, so close to the 50% of duplication removed. So as a conclusions, the paper, we provided a solution for federating smart city services, different kind of services, single point or complex structures, so transversal service, with the overlap in the area or fully included the area each other or mix of them. The idea was to efficiently provide the service removing duplication, and services that can be federated, that can be native SNAP for city services or FIWARE native NGSI services or GSI services based. At the end, we think that the solution satisfies the requirements that we have identified in the preliminary study. It is the solution overcome what is traditionally based on GIS, on Geographic Information System, or brokers that tend to not to be so efficient and tend to be very inefficient or inadaptive to manage structures that are overlapped and duplicated among different areas. And so the solution allows to manage a large range of different kinds of services and also allow to move user from one federated area to another. And what I have not stressed since the beginning was the fact that the solution is still GDPR compliant as a single. So it's possible to have a mix of protected and public data in the different federated area. And if a user is formally registered in both areas, it can obtain data from both areas in a seamless manner. Otherwise, it can obtain only public data. So the performance are quite scalable, and we have seen in terms of number of results obtained and also in terms of time, response time to provide the data. Thanks a lot.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now, time for questions. Are there any questions from our online participants? Either here in the room? Well, if not, thank you one more time. Thank you one more time, Professor Nessi. And now the following paper will be again from Slovakia. I suppose, Christina, can you start your presentation? Can you start sharing? So please try to share your screen, please.
It seems I can't share it. Maybe you have to turn off the share on your side.
So maybe Professor Nessi, if you can stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Perfect. So please, Christina, try it now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Can you see the presentation?
We can see your screen. If you want, you can, maximize and start.
So thank you for the floor. On behalf of the authors, I would like to briefly present our paper on the topic, the market concentration as the public services contracting out efficiency factor at the local government level, the case of Slovakia. Also, I would like to...
Sorry to interrupt. Can you please try to speak a little bit louder or just closer to your microphone, please?
Is this better? I am as close as I can get. Is this better? Hello? hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. It would be just better if you can speak a little bit louder.
Yes, I'm as close as I can get. So.
Is it okay? Perfect. Okay, so just start. Thank you.
So I would like to also note that the paper is part of the project Management of Contracting Services in the Public Sector, which is implemented at the Faculty of Economics, Mathieu Bell University. The content is as follows. In the introduction, I will state the main reasons why we focus on market restrictions at the municipal level. Then I present the methodology, which we use in the paper, the research results, and the conclusions. In terms of the theoretical background, we follow up on the reforms that were in the public sector. We give priority to the reform of new public management, which aims at public-private partnerships and the active participation of citizens in the process of providing public services. From a financial point of view, public-private partnership should ensure that all processes are more effective and that it reduces costs in the provision of public services. There are several ways to establish a public-private partnership. In the paper, we focus specifically on alternative service delivery arrangements, or ASDA. In alternative service delivery systems in the public sector, the service provider is public authority, which ensures the provision of a service in relation to public needs. And the service producer is a private organization. In this context, contracting is one of the most used alternative forms of providing services by ASDA in the public sector. Contracting out means that the public institution is responsible for the provision of the public service, and the production is outsourced to a private organization independent of the public institution. The aim of the paper is to analyze the market concentration as the public services contracting out efficiency factor at the local government level. After a literature review, we find that several authors, as Johansson, De Graaf, Gradus, Sokupova, Vatsikova, Brown, etc., identify the market concentration as a significant market restriction, which is why we concentrate on it in the paper. The competitive environment can have an impact on higher municipal expenditures, and the effect of market concentration on the price of the service is evidenced by the growing Herfindahl-Hirschman index. Our primary research is original in Slovak condition and reflects the research gap of this issue in national context. Now I would like to present the main methodological points of research. In terms of the type of research issue, in the paper we focus on the market concentration in contracting out collection and disposal of municipal solid waste. In research, we use the database consisting of primary data, which we obtained by a questionnaire survey conducted in 194 municipalities of Central Slovakia. Then we divided the municipalities into districts according to their territorial affiliation. We collected data from September to December 2021, and based on the set aim, we formulate two research premises in the paper. Of course, in setting these premises, we work with theoretical background creating from scientific studies of domestic and foreign authors. The main method for research is the use of special indexes, which are the concentration ratio and the Herfindahl-Hirschman index. Also, these indexes are used in foreign research and their application is appropriate given the research set. The advantage of these indexes is the simple measurement of the market concentration. The base value of the district is in the range from 1,000 to 1,499. In Table 1, we can see what type of market concentration and competition belongs to the measured value. We move on to the research results. In the first step, we found out what type of provision of selected public service is applied in individual districts. We find that more than 11% of municipalities use the traditional internal form of service provision. Of these, 10 municipalities provided by technical services of the municipality, 7 of them provided by the organization established by the municipality itself, and 5 municipalities provided by community service. In terms of quality management, 64% of municipalities regularly check the performance of the service. From the organizational point of view, more than 88% of municipalities use ASDA. This slide shows us the results of the market concentration in the 174 municipalities divided into 17 districts. The average value of market concentration measured in the file is at the level of 7,260 and is shown in Figure 2 by the orange line. 9 districts recorded a result below the average, and 5 districts recorded the highest possible achievable value of 10,000. In the districts of Revuca, Žiar nad Hronom, Martin, Tvrdošín, and Žilina, we state that there is a score of 10,000, which means that there is a monopoly on the market, so only one private player. In districts oscillating around the average, we find that there are sometimes 2 or 3 private players, so the type of market is an oligopoly with a dominant company. Herfindahl-Hirschman index in the range from 3,888 to 5,987 is reported in the districts Banská Bystrica, Brezno, Lučenec, Rimavská Sobota, Zvolen, and Žarnovica. The lowest market concentration is in Rimavská Sobota. The reason is that there are 4 organizations in the district providing the public service. Based on the results of market concentration, we found how it affects the price of the service. We monitor the price through 2 indicators. The first indicator is the price expressed per capita, and the second indicator is the price expressed per 1 ton of waste. The table 2 shows the final values. So the indicator of cost per capita reached the highest values in the districts of Banská Bystrica, Dětva, Žarnovica, and Martin. But only in the last district, Martin, was the monopoly of Brandner Company. In the other 3 districts, there are 2 companies on the market, Brandner and Marius Pedersen. Based on the values, we find that the highest prices were recorded in districts where the service was provided by purely private players. On the other hand, the lowest values of indicators were recorded in the districts of Tvrdošín, Lučenec, Dolný Kubín, Ružomberok, and Žiar nad Hronom. The lowest value of the indicator cost per 1 ton of waste is in the district of Ružomberok with the amount of 102.42 euros. Low values were recorded in the districts of Lučenec, Liptovský Mikuláš, and Brezno too. The highest value of the indicator was recorded in the district of Dětva. This district also has high values for the first indicator, so we assume that the market for the monitored public service has few large players who affected the price of the service. Based on the results, we find that the 174 surveyed municipalities in Central Slovakia are contracting out the service of collection of municipal solid waste. And the most frequently used form of public procurement is public tender, while the main selection criterion is the lowest price. According to this finding, we present the results of Peterson and others who are critical of this criterion because it is important to consider the specifics of the service in public tenders. In the case of the monitored service, there are specifics such as territorial availability, the number of landfills in the area, the number of inhabitants of the municipality, etc. Therefore, a possible solution, following the example of research by the authors Soukupová, Klimovsky, or Ehlers and de Greef, is to create a shared service for small municipalities, for example, at the microregion level, or by the form of intermunicipal cooperation. It is the issues of support for intermunicipal cooperation that we would like to address in the following research. We find that the market in the surveyed municipalities is highly concentrated and characterized by a monopoly or oligopoly with the dominant player. These findings are also supported by the findings of Di Foggia and Beccarella, who conducted research in 20 Italian municipalities and found that only 4 of them have a Herfindahl-Hirschman index below 2,000. And of course, in our research, the average market concentration was above 7,000. We also confirmed the Gratus and others, finding that if the market is highly concentrated, the price for the service rises. This was shown by the results of the price per ton of waste. For these reasons, we recommend for municipalities to analyze market concentration in advance. Then they could consider the possibility of providing local public services by contracting out. At the end of my presentation, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Christina. So now it's time for questions. Are there any comments, remarks? Well, nothing from here. If anybody from online world. If not, thank you one more time, as I see you already stopped sharing. So now I would like to ask our last presenter for today, if you can start your presentation. Perfect, okay. We can see you. Hello. Perfect, we can see your presentation.
Can you listen?
Yes.
Thank you.
You can start.
Okay. Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Israel. I'm a master's degree student at Federal University of Espírito Santo, Brazil. And this research brings a reactive grasp algorithm for the multi-depot vehicle routing problem. It was also studied by Dr. Boeres, Dr. Moraes, and Dr. Thompson. This presentation was divided in 8 sections. The main topics discussed in this talk are summarized in these slides. After a brief introduction, we present the algorithmic approaches, discussion of the results, and conclusions. The vehicle routing problem is a widely known combinatorial problem to minimize costs and optimize transportation, also optimizing traffic. It can directly reduce the final cost of logistical processes. The vehicle routing problem is an NP-hard problem with many real-world applications. In this work, we focus on the multi-depot variant. The multi-depot vehicle routing problem seeks to minimize a set of routes where each customer starts and ends at the same depot, each customer is served once by one vehicle, a total load of the vehicle does not exceed its maximum capacity, and the total number of vehicles used by the depot do not surpass the maximum number of vehicles of the depot. In literature, heuristics for solving the multi-depot vehicle routing problem are classified in 2 approaches. The first is called cluster first, route second, where the bets are clustered considering the depot as the center of the cluster and then the route is constructed. The second is called route first, cluster second, where a giant tour is built, considering all vertices, and then it is split in a set of feasible routes. In this work, we consider the cluster first, route second approach. For the cluster first phase, the literature presents several clustering methods. A classical K-means proposed by McQueen et al. In 1967. A group of clustering approaches was proposed by Gios et al., where we highlight the Huygens method. In the Huygens method, it ranks all customers, and the customers with the highest urgency is assigned first. Here we present the first instance of the Cordeau dataset. On the left, it was clustered with the K-means method, and on the right, it was clustered with the Huygens method. The figures are very similar. However, in the Huygens clusterization, the red and green cluster has one more client, and on K-means, the blue cluster has this client instead. For the route second phase, the grid randomized adaptive search procedures, in short GRASP, is a multi-start metric. In each GRASP iteration, a solution is built using a constructive algorithm that administrates a restrictive candidate list with a size limited by the alpha parameter. The restricted candidate list contains the alpha best candidate elements, and one of the best components is chosen at random to belong to the solution, but not necessarily the top candidate. And the built solution is then submitted to the local search procedures. Here we describe the reactive grasp plus VMD algorithm. In reactive grasp, the alpha parameter is automatically and dynamically updated. We apply a random adaptation to the widely known Clark-Wright Saves algorithm, and then the cross-centric solution is then submitted to 4 local search heuristics, organized in the variable neighborhood descent structure. The first 2 are the classical methods. In two swap, a movement consists of swap 2 customers. In two OPT, a movement consists of swapping 2 edges while preserving the tour. The later 2 are described in this work. In dot 1 point, intra-depot, a movement consists of swapping a customer into another node, but in the same depot. And in drop 1 point next depot, a movement consists of swapping a customer to the next closest depot. Here we describe the reactive grasp plus VMD parameters. The alpha is dynamically updated throughout grasp iterations. The block iterations are the number of iterations after which alpha parameter is updated. The delta is used to attenuate the probabilities to select the alpha parameter. And the max iterations are the maximum number of grasp iterations used in an algorithm execution. In this work, max iterations will set to 10,000, block iterations to 100, and delta to 10. The algorithm is implemented in Python 3.8 and executed in an Intel processor and 4 GB of RAM memory. For each instance, the algorithm is executed 10 times using the first integers as seeds. This slide presents the preliminary tests used to select the best algorithm procedure sequence. 4 procedures were implemented and tested in each instance of the Cordeau dataset. Similar behavior can be identified, where the urgency method achieves better average solutions against the k-means, and the variable neighborhood descent achieves a better average against the sequential local search structure. For this reason, we have selected the urgencies and variable neighborhood descent for the algorithm. And here we present the literature review to identify the grasp applications for the multi-deposit vehicle routing problem up to March of 2022, and it was performed in Scopus, IEEE, and Web of Science datasets. Only 2 distinct papers were obtained, where only GRASP and VND by Villegas et al. Presents results with instances from literature. Reactive GRASP plus VND and GRASP and VND by Villegas et al. Both uses the variable neighborhood descent local search structure, but with different neighborhoods. However, GRASP and VND by Villegas et al. Use the hot first, close second approach. It also adopts the classical GRASP version with the static value of the alpha parameter and the need of the parameter calibration. The reactive GRASP plus VND algorithm considers the cluster first, hot second approach, and the reactive GRASP, which is a dynamic and automatic update to the alpha parameter. And here we present a comparison of GRASP and VND by Villegas et al. And the reactive GRASP algorithm proposal. We highlight that the reactive GRASP plus VND achieves a better average solution for all instances, and it also presents a lower variation of the best 2 average solutions, presenting robust results. And the results marked by a star has its optimality proved. And here we compare the 2 algorithms' deviation differences. The reactive GRASP plus VND achieves a better solution for the instance P1, P2, P4, and P6. And the GRASP and VND by Villegas et al. Achieves a better solution for the instance P3, P5, P7, P12, P15, and P21. The most notable difference was obtained on instance P2, where GRASP and VND by Villegas achieves 11.85% deviation, and the reactive GRASP plus VND achieves 1.44% deviation. Literature review was conducted to identify the state-of-the-art of the algorithm for the multi-deposit vehicle routing problem. It was executed on the Scopus database from 2018 to March of 2022. The reported papers and also those used in the comparison were ranked considering the average results on the Cordeau dataset. The 2 algorithms with the best average results were a hybrid genetic algorithm by the Vidot et al. And a biased randomized variable neighborhood search by Reyes-Rubiano in 2020. And here we present the comparison with the state-of-the-art algorithms and the reactive GRASP plus VND average solution values. The hybrid genetic algorithm achieves the best results, followed by the BRVNS. Reactive GRASP plus VND achieves an average of 5.24% deviation of AGS-ADC and an average of 4.90% deviation of BRVNS solutions. This work introduced the reactive GRASP plus VND for the multi-deposit vehicle routing problem. The reactive GRASP plus VND combines 4 distinct local search neighborhoods organized in a VND structure. First, the problem instance is clustered using the urgency clustering method. In the following, the local search procedures are applied in a solution obtained using a randomized adaptation of the Clark-Wright savings algorithm. And here we present the conclusion of this work. The reactive GRASP plus VND brings contribution to the grasp literature for the multi-approach vehicle routing problem, which currently is minimal. Reactive grasp plus VNG versus grasp and DND by Villegas achieves better results in most initial instances of the Cordeau dataset, and it also achieves better average solutions for all instances in the experiments versus the grasp and VND. It also presents a lower difference in values between the best and average solutions, presenting robust results. Reactive grasp plus VND achieves an average of 5.24 percentage deviation of HGS ADC and an average of 4.90 percentage deviation of VR-VNS solutions. For future work, the reactive grasp plus VND can be investigated in other VRP variants, such as those with time window constraints, and other constructive algorithms can be investigated, as well as the reactive grasp plus VND parameter tuning can be improved to bring a better performance for bigger instances. And here are our main references. The first proves the optimality of Cordeau instances. The second brings the Cordeau dataset. Third are the grasp methodological proposal. First define the urgency clustering method, and the last presents the VRP complexity proof. We would like to thank you, CAPS, for the financial support. And this concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now we have time for questions. So please, one.
Hi, Gabriel. I hope you hear me.
Can you hear our question?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. I have two questions. The first is you compute the clusters first. And the first question is why? And the second question is you use k-means to compute clusters as one of your approaches. And the question is, for k-means algorithm, you need to provide k. So how did you compute the optimal number of clusters? Thank you.
A question. We have used the cluster first, root second approach because we have already studied the CVRP problem. And in this approach, when we have the first phase, the cluster in place, we go to the CVRP scenario. So it was better for us that we have already studied the problem and similar methods for local search could be applied, and that was our main motivation. The second question, I think I could not understand very well, but you asked about k-means.
Yes, k-means requires you to furnish k, the number of clusters, to be computed. So if you want to compute the optimal number, how did you do that?
Oh, okay. We have set the number of clusters as the number of the depots in the problem. So each depot is unclustered. So the k-means didn't need to get the optimal number of clusters because we have set each cluster to a depot.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question, comment, or remark? If not, thank you one more time. Thank you all for participating on this session. So we can close our session. We didn't forget anybody. So thank you all who presented virtually. I can just say goodbye and see you tomorrow. We start tomorrow at 9 a.m. You can join any session you are interested in. And as for those who are in presence, we have a very nice program. I suppose welcome drink. Just one important question: where it will be in the same place?
I think yes. Yeah.
Perfect. So we can slowly move there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.